One of the most moving passages in the Bible is today's parable. And what Jesus is doing, he is reworking an old story. The story of a father and two sons. The Bible is full of stories of brothers who do not get on. Think of the stories of Cain and Abel, or Isaac and Ishmael, or Jacob and Esau, or Joseph and his brothers. You could say it's the oldest story in the book. The story of brothers' jealousy, ambition, competition, one with another. And in Jesus' retelling of this story, he tells it in such a way that everything that's so compelling about the Christian faith comes through in the story. A son has left home. He's spent his time and his inheritance foolishly, selfishly. Desperate and full of regret, he finally came to himself. He says to himself, I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands. So he went off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Can you feel the yearning in this story? I will get up and go to my father. And while he was still far off, the father ran to him. It's a mutual yearning, the yearning of a child to go home, the yearning of a parent, of a good parent for their child. A mutual yearning. And I believe this is a picture of the dynamic that is at the heart of the whole of creation. A mutual yearning. Our most popular Lent group this year is Finding God in Nature. Get outside in Lent. And I think there are 17 or more people following this course. And we all are experiencing the surprise and delight of our world waking up in spring. The smell of the soil, looking for tiny flecks of colour when all just a week or so ago was barren winter, carefully noticing the first buds of spring. And we felt in our hearts a yearning to get back to nature. And nature is yearning for new life. It's a mutual yearning that I believe is the dynamic of the whole of creation. My brothers and sisters, creation is personal. And there is a call that runs through all things, across the gaps that we feel so strongly. It's a call to delight and reconnect. When the prodigal son had spent everything, lo and behold, a severe famine hit the land. What happens in his soul happens all around him too. And he began to be in need. Hiring himself out to feed pigs, the lowest job in the Semitic world, a job so low that no one would give him anything to eat. They didn't want to have anything to do with him. Verse 17 tells us, but when he came to himself, he yearned to go home. Reckless, fast living, all spent. Now he just yearned to go home, even to be a hired hand on his father's farm. And was the father perhaps watching the horizon, waiting, wondering, yearning? Where am I? Where are you in this story? What perhaps do you notice in this well-known parable that perhaps you hadn't noticed before? Perhaps you heard it in a slightly different way, or a word or a phrase just touched you. Where is your heart turning this morning? Where is your yearning? St. Paul tells us in Romans chapter 8 that creation is groaning in labour, just as we ourselves groan inwardly for our adoption as children of God. Groaning, yearning as a good parent for their lost child, or for a lost young man in a strange land when his credit, his self-respect had all run out. Or groaning and feeling helpless in the face of what's happening in Ukraine or Yemen, or what our generation continues to do to our world. My brothers and sisters, there is a deep, deep yearning in each of us to connect, to reconnect, to reconcile, to bridge the distance, to close the gap of our shortfalls and our failings. Today's gospel tells us that this self-same yearning is at the heart of God. God longs for you. God longs for me. And notice, the father leaves the feast to go looking for his other son. His other son has now become lost. Lost in bitterness, jealousy, and resentment. And the words the father speaks call us all back. They call us all back to the heart of God, to see how far we have strayed. Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found. The world creation is yearning for this generation to come to our senses. The model of domination, one over another and over the created order, it has and is wreaking havoc. Will we come back to God? Will we be reconciled one to another? Will we be reconciled to ourselves? To make peace between these archetype figures of the prodigal son and the angry brother, which we all have at war, at odds within ourselves. The beginning of the Bible tells the story of Adam and Eve, and the consequence of human sin is fratricide. Brother kills brother, Cain slays Abel. Jesus reworks this story, but he leaves us to finish it. Will the two brothers be reunited? Will we come back to ourselves? Will we let ourselves be found and brought home? Let's take a minute or two of quiet before Kate sings to us.